basically we were trying to see what best lights we could use, what spectrum would sort of do for uniform for everything. And so we found after about 6 months of playing about with different lights that the best spectrum was the Veloya with an AP673L spectrum, which I can tell you the actual build-up of that spectrum. So I've jumped ahead on my sheets now quite a bit. So the spectrum that we found was best for a nice for uniformity. Sorry, not uniformity. The best adapted for most of the crops that we're playing with was 10% blue, 19% green, 63% red, and far red of 8%. And the plants just seem to love that. So we played with this benching, and all the time that we were doing all these trials, the guys were going for crowdfunding to try and raise the money for the actual farm. So we had a bit of funding at the start to build this little trial area in the tunnels. We got a little feed rig there, and the bench ebb and flood system, and so you can't really see it. There's some tanks in the corner there for ebb and flood, and we played away with those. And then because this is in London and we're based in York, we decided to build a exact copy of the tunnel that we're using in London in York, so we could start to model all the equipment to go in it and get the best out of the space we had. So we built this tunnel in my father's old greenhouses, which are all empty at the moment, or most of them are. We did this 12 years ago. And then we started to model the framework. So at first, the lads were wanting as wide as possible benching in the bottom. This is 1.5 meters, which we just didn't like because you just couldn't see this backside, what was going on. So we actually changed all the framework and we went for 1 meter at each side, and we managed to squeeze four levels into the curvature of the tunnels. So we modelled that for over 12 months really, until we actually came up with the structure. So what we did was we built the structure for a practice run really, to see how long it's going to take to build. The other thing is the lights. We had to build the framework in such a way that the lights would run through the framework, because the lights are 1500 mil and the frames were they were 2 meters apart. They had to be for the flood trays, because we wanted to buy bespoke flood trays. And then what we did was we actually ran the whole system. This is only sort of a third of the farm. We ran the system to find out how the water flows through, from ebb and flood, to get a feel for how long it takes to drain back to the tanks, and irrigation times, balancing all the valves and everything else. So it's a good thing to do, because it made it so much better when we built the farm, because it's so inaccessible. This farm, it is just important. Some of you will know how hard it is to access in London. We packed everything up, all the frames into crates. We made all these crates. I think there's 170 frames, so it's quite a lot of work. And then there's all the crossbars, all the equipment for the trays to sit on. We had rolling trays. And then we decided we'd buy a 7.5 ton rear steer wagon, an old one. This is before ULEZ, so it wasn't a problem driving into London. And then it gave us the flexibility of having a wagon that will back into the yard and use it as a bit of a store as well, while we actually get everything down there. So we bought a 7.5 ton truck to get everything down. And then obviously down in the tunnel. So basically these frames were made to go inside the lift. Yeah. So we had the forethought to think, how on earth we get all this equipment down into the tunnels. And so yes, so basically this was the first frame of the farm. We pre-wired all the wiring on them for the lights, so they all just clip together. And then here you can see how we've lined the tunnels. So basically it's like a plastic liner that goes. Hang on a second, let me go back. I click the mouse. You can see the structure, and then effectively we painted the ceiling. We put this tray work all the way down the middle with our iconic LED strip that goes down full length. And then the tunnels are lined here. The control panels are in the roof here for each set of 5 stacks. You can see all the frames here, all laid out, ready to go. And then this is the framework going in. These trays, they slide out, in and out. We had to make all the trays down there. We had a bit of a production line with air rivet guns. There's 12,000 rivets for these trays that we use to build everything for the farm. Maybe going a bit too quick, but anyway, we could have more time to discuss things. I'm just thinking, well, oh yeah, there is another thing. What we didn't realize at first was that the whole tunnel complex of 400 meters, there was a meter fall from one end to the other, and which really you couldn't really tell. And so what we had to do was we found out before we built all the framework, luckily, but basically we put jacks on every single leg, and then every 5th frame drops to another level. So you've got 5 sets of frames, but you had to be careful. We had to be careful with the clearance. It's so tight. So every 5 frames drops about, I don't know what it was, 150 mil. So yeah, we had to contend with all that as well with the fall of the tunnel. But the fall of the tunnel was really good for us for the drains back to the tanks. So it worked in our favour quite well, really. And then here's the tanks. So basically, the farm's above here, and these are the tanks it falls back into. There's 10 tanks for the dirty water coming down, and then another 10 tanks the other side of the feed rig. It was just a normal heron feed rig, very simple, for clean water to go back up. And we used to, I don't know what it was, about 30% dumped each week. It was a very primitive system, but it worked really well. And that's the irrigation side of it. So this is excuse me. This is a finished article just before all the crops went in. So you can see the trays and how they operate. They're all there, and the irrigation just drops in one corner. You can see that, and yeah, all the lighting on. And this is how the crops were. You can pull them out to inspect the crop and see how it's how it's growing and everything. You can see right at the back, which is really useful because it's really hard looking into these things from the path to see it. But yeah, we got amazing results. It took us 6 weeks to build the farm from start to finish. We did it on time, in budget, and it all went really well. And hardly ever went back to it, really. Here's a bit of a technical information for you all. So you can see the lights here, the framework. You see the lights running through the framework. This is the gutter system that we had. So the water naturally fell down the gradient of the tunnel, and the drain of the trays was over the gutters, so you could pull it out. It didn't matter where the tray was, it's still drained into the cross gutters here. And these cross gutters are just garden shed guttering, really simple stuff. One drops into the other, and so on and so forth. You can see the jacks on the legs down there. So yeah, this is all the actual frames for each side. There was 68 of these frames, so a total of 544 square meters of growing space. As I mentioned before, the ambient temperature was 12 degrees. They had two big air extraction fans, one bringing air in and one taking air out, which were still from wartime, and they still worked. So that was our ventilation. You had to shut certain doors through the tunnels to get the airflow how you wanted it, but it worked. We just had some air, dehumidifiers, 4 of them down the farm, just standalone. No fancy HVAC systems, no fancy computer systems. It just had an irrigation controller for the irrigation and an irrigation controller for the light control, and that's all we had. So it was very, very basic. And then the cooling. So we did some sums here on the actual farm. It was 84 watts of energy per square meter, about 110 UMOL of light, which grew the crops wonderfully, really well. And then, yeah, summer cooling, the fans were on full tilt. So yeah, you used quite a lot of energy for cooling. Winter time, we fitted inverters on the fans to get a saving in energy, which was quite good. And then, yeah, you got some sums there. Project price, £588 per square meter of growing area. That's to build the farm, the lighting, all the irrigation system. It just didn't include the lining of the tunnels, but everything else is in there. Yeah, so that's that. And then, so yeah, crop yield comparison. So we've actually done a bit of a comparison with vertical farms. They always seem to compare grain to outside crops. So we've done a bit of research. So we've had a bit of help from some very good professionals with this. So I was quite surprised at this. 2 to 3 kilos per square meter per year in an open crop. This is like full head lettuce outdoor. And then growing underground, this is an average of one or two of the crops. So for leafy salads. And we know that this is true. And Chris will back me. I'll introduce you to Chris in a minute. And that's what we were achieving in growing underground per square. And then just to compare it to a glass house, you can see it's quite a lot more for a glass house. Yes, glass houses, the control isn't in wintertime, of course, you've got to light it more and everything else, and you can't just say that crop's going to be ready on that day. But it's still just to show you the comparisons. So that's that. And then the next slide. Yeah, so basically we've done some more research. Well, this is actually on the internet, so you can see it. It just sort of puts it. This is for the big farms, the great big farms with the big hungry HVACs. I mean, I'm a great believer in farms like growing underground, where you've got a local farm feeding local people, local markets, and everything else. Small farms, I think you can make it run a lot more energy efficient. From all our experience of greenhouses and vertical farms, which we built both, I feel that the big massive vertical farms, they really don't. I think they hide a lot of this energy costs. The cost of energy. I know they're producing green energy with biomass and all the growing maize, but you've got to grow many thousands of acres of maize to feed these things, and then you compare it to a greenhouse. It's quite amazing, the difference. I just thought I'd put that out there, and we can discuss that afterwards. yeah, so there you are, 3 times more energy than Dutch greenhouse. So yeah, so that's it. I think that's me done. Yeah, this is us, TCE. I'm not allowed to say too much because it's too commercial, but you know, we do a lot of consulting and design for bespoke projects and stuff like that. Yeah, I hope that's all right. Is that okay, Katia?
Yeah, that was very good. Thank you very much. And I really enjoyed the pictures, to be honest.